Welcome to another video, guys. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kris05 and I specialize in Hearthstone guides, gameplay videos, tips, top 5 meta reports, coaching gameplay, and anything Hearthstone related. So if you guys are serious about Hearthstone, you might want to give my channel a check. Today we're going to be talking about the 6 new battle ready decks Blizzard is going to be providing for new players or returning players. So if you guys are thinking about coming back to Hearthstone or you're thinking about starting altogether, this video will be very valuable for you. Hope you find it helpful, and if you do, you know what to do. But now let's get into the decks.
You are not prepared!
Here we are going to talk about the 6 new decks and basically figure out which one is the best option for most people, which one provides the biggest amount of dust for you if you decide to be disenchanting cards, which provides you the biggest amount of flexible cards you could be using in all sorts of different places, and all around which one is just the easiest to play, the easy legend. I already have them nice and loaded in HS Replay Premium, so we are going to look at them from here. It's going to look similar to my top 5 meta reports, so yeah, let's give them a check. First one up is Triple Blood Space Death Knight, and to be fair, Space Death Knight is a pretty powerful deck. This is actually also the most expensive deck on the list, so if you guys are solely looking for dust value, this would be the deck for you. Not to mention, it also has some pretty amazing cards in here you could be using in all sorts of different places. The deck itself is decently powerful. You could be seeing similar variations of this deck in Top Legend even doing amazing results. And you do have key cards like Bob the Bartender, Nomelia, Exodar, Ziliax, and Ceaseless Expanse, and all of these cards are insanely amazing in so many Hearthstone decks right now. You're gonna notice all of these are neutral cards, so I do believe in terms of dust value as well as general usage, this would be probably the best pick for most people. The deck is decently powerful. It's not your typical fundamental Hearthstone gameplay experience, but it's not far from it. And just the dust value and card value you are gaining out of this is through the roof compared to the others. I do have detailed videos about how you could be piloting decks like this, so you can definitely check out my guides about it, as well as gameplay videos. And yeah, I don't think there's much more reason for us to stick around on this deck for too long. We gotta go through 6 decks after all, so might as well move to the next one. Next up we have Quest Mage, and I did wrongly write this one as Big Spell Mage. I don't know, I thought it was actually Big Spell, but no, it is actually Quest Mage. And this deck, I would not pick it. I do believe this is the worst deck out of the lot. It's a fun, random BS Fiesta kind of deck. You could be enjoying yourself here and there with all the flashing colors and lights, but all around this deck is... it could be competitive, don't get me wrong. Some people in Top Legend are actually doing great things with a deck like this, but it is just way too random, way too scammy, way too all over the place for most people to really get the most out of this one, so I would definitely stay away from it. Not to mention the 2 legendaries you get from here are super niche. None of them are going to be useful or usable for that matter in any other deck, and just all around the deck is kind of, I don't know, man. Like, I can't really say anything nice about this deck. It's everything that's kind of wrong in Hearthstone, you know? Like, getting all of that randomness in the game and that being the deciding factor who's winning and who's losing is just not my cup of tea, what can I say? And like I said, the overall value of this deck is just super, super low. On the number 3 spot, we have another decently low valued deck in terms of dust value and use case scenario outside of this deck. But this one, on the other hand, is actually really, really strong and really simple and fundamental Hearthstone-y. With this deck, you are going to be able to climb to easy legend if you know how to play the deck itself. You don't even need to know what the opponent is doing for most of the time. You just need to be playing your own game plan, which is borderline brain dead, but that doesn't matter much, especially when you're first picking up Hearthstone. If you're a new player, I would say this deck would be a great pickup. You're only getting a couple of legendaries and you can't really use them outside of this class. Nobody else is using Grunty, if we gotta be completely honest, and obviously you can't be using this in any other Pally decks with any success, so there's that. You do have a decent amount of epics in here, but nothing to really write home about, some of which are even core cards like this and that. So aside from Crusader Aura and a single copy of Adaptive Amalgam, you're really not getting much of dust value out of this one, but the deck definitely is pretty strong, and again, I do have guides and gameplay videos about it, so I advise you to give it a check if you really want to see how the deck is performing. The deck is also pretty close to the perfect 30 for this type of deck, so you are going to be playing a meta deck with this one. But again, aside from it being super powerful, it's not going to be giving you much flexibility and dust value. On the number 4 spot, we have Quest Warlock, which is indeed a very strong meta deck right now, but if you are a new Hearthstone player, I would actually strongly advise against using this deck. It is a very unintuitive Hearthstone deck for newer players especially. It's far from fundamental Hearthstone, and it will for sure be a challenge for most players to actually get the hang of. All around, the deck itself is pretty close to the perfect 30 right now. Honestly, I do believe Hearthstone could have given people a little bit more in terms of legendary here. For instance, half of the meta decks do run Kerrigan here as a staple card, so just give people the dust value, like what the hell, please. But still, you do have 3 legendaries in here, albeit one of them is core. You're still actually gonna get the card itself, so you could be disenchanting it later if you really want to. But yeah, all around, the flexibility for this deck again is pretty low. Summoner Dark Marrow is usable in other Warlock decks, however, so there's that. And the power level definitely is very high. You could be seeing plenty of this deck in top legend. You will be able to hit easy legend if you really get the hang of this deck. And again, you could actually be checking out my detailed guides if you decide to go on this route. On the number 5 spot, we do have another very good fundamental Hearthstone deck, which would be Beast Hunter. But again, this is the cheapest deck out of the lot, actually. The only legendary card you will be getting here would be City Chief Esho, which is literally free right now. So I don't know. This one is a really good Hearthstone deck. You will be hitting easy legend with this one if you know how to play it, but you are really not getting yourself much in terms of cards and dust altogether, so I don't know how good of an idea this would be. Again, check out my detailed videos about how you want to be playing this deck, and you will be good to go for easy climbing, but I'm not sure this would be the deck you should be picking. This is a deck you could be building literally after a couple of months in the game, but definitely don't pick this if you're looking for a bigger, better Hearthstone collection. And on the last spot, we do have Protoss Priest, which is another pretty decent option, actually. In terms of dust value, you're not getting much, but you are getting one of the staple Hearthstone cards right now, which would be Nightmare Xavius, which you could be using in all sorts of different decks. So it is a decent option if you're looking for a strong meta deck, as well as a little bit of flexibility and improving your Hearthstone collection altogether. Protoss Priest is a strong deck still. It's definitely not as strong as it used to, but you can have some pretty nice games, especially with the broken card Resuscitate, which really does steal games. You could be hitting easy legend with this one. It's not too far from fundamental Hearthstone, even though it does have its intricacies, but again, if you want to know how to play this deck for real, check out my detailed guide about it. Okay, so these are the 6 decks. Now let's actually rate them in several categories. The categories will be which is the strongest deck out of the 6, which is the easiest to play the easy legend, and which gives you the best value for your collection. Starting off with the strongest, I do believe the strongest deck out of these would be Quest Warlock. This deck definitely is really good, but like I said, it's not exactly super user-friendly, so you're probably gonna have a hard time actually piloting this deck, especially if you're first starting off in Hearthstone. Beast Hunter definitely also is worth mentioning. It is a really good deck, it's not that hard to pull off, but it's very dirt cheap, so I wouldn't really pick it. Quest Paladin also is pretty worth talking about here, because you could even be seeing this deck in top legend here and there, albeit it's not really a top legend meta deck, but it is definitely probably one of the strongest options from Diamond 5 to Legend, so definitely not the worst option if you're looking for power. Space Death Knight definitely is not weak either. It's not the easiest deck out of the lot, but in terms of power level, it is definitely worth mentioning. Same can be said for Protoss Priest. It's not the strongest out of the lot, but it's definitely very capable, and you could even see it in top legend here and there, even though it's not the strongest amongst those. And on the last spot, I would say Quest Mage. This one I really consider more of a meme deck. Like I said, you could be seeing some pros doing well with it, but you really need to know how to push your RNG in your favor, and that is just not gonna happen for most of you. In terms of which are the easiest decks to be piloting, obviously we gotta start off with Quest Pally. The game plan with this one is just really intuitive. You just play your Murlocs over and over again, and at some point the opponent just stops kicking. Beast Hunter is also definitely worth mentioning here. It's a pretty traditional Hearthstone token meta deck. You don't need to be an absolute rocket science to know how to pilot this one. It does have a few intricacies here and there, but it's really not that complicated to really make the most out of. And another easy good choice here would be Protoss Priest. It is close to a fundamental Hearthstone deck, even though it does have its caveats. But again, most people who pick this deck up should have no problem getting the most out of it after playing for a few days. Things like Space Death Knight definitely are not the easiest out of the lot. It is a control lead deck, so you really need to know how much damage you could be taking before you start using your removals. It does have several intricacies with its starships. It's not rocket science even though it is a Space Death Knight, but if you check out my guides you should have no problem figuring this one out. So I would say it's in the mid-range. Quest Warlock definitely is not an easy deck like I said. You should probably stay away from it as a new player. Even though it is very powerful, it's probably gonna go above most people's heads, especially if they're just starting out Hearthstone. And obviously Quest Mage is also super hard to actually get the most out of, so I would also stay away from that one. In terms of sheer dust value and collection value, obviously Death Knight is gonna take the cake. Getting yourself Bob, Nomelia, Exodar, Ziliax, and Ceaseless Expanse, those are all absolutely top tier meta. Neutral cards you could be using in all sorts of different decks, so having this core of 5 legendaries for all classes, I think it's an absolute no-brainer to pick Death Knight always, all day, any day. The deck is strong enough, it's not too complicated, and it's just giving you insane sheer amounts of value here straight out. You also get a couple of epic cards like Guiding Figures, a couple of Ancients of Yore, which are also absolutely top tier by the way, and you could be using in all sorts of different decks. So I think the choice is absolutely clear here. Space Death Knight just takes the cake in basically any front, and there's no real arguments to be choosing anything else. One thing to note here is it's kind of scummy that Blizzard did not provide us with some really core legendary cards in here you could have included. Like for instance, why the hell do we not have frickin' Elise? She is an obvious inclusion in any deck like this. They could have included something like Killjaden, they could have included something like the hero card, but they chose not to, and I'm assuming they didn't want to skyrocket even further the difference in value this deck provides for newer players, but again, I don't know, it's kind of weird, it's kind of weird. In terms of dust value for the rest of them, they're really nowhere near as close to this deck. The only meaningful other option here would be, I guess, Protoss Priest, just for the sake of getting yourself Nightmare Xavius, which again, could have been included into the Death Knight deck by the way, definitely is a staple in the Death Knight deck, but again, they're not giving you the cream of the crop kind of deal, but yeah, it is what it is. So yeah guys, I wholeheartedly recommend anybody, literally anybody, to just pick their Space Death Knight deck as their starter. It just gives way too much, the deck is strong enough to hit Legend, it's not that complicated to play, albeit the games are gonna be a little bit slower. I, hands down, could not recommend this deck enough. So yeah guys, do let me know in the comments if you agree with my recommendations and assessments, and I really hope you found the video helpful. If you did, a like and a subscribe would be awesome, and don't forget to check me out live on Twitch each Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video, or stream.